Converting decimals to fractions and percents. So here we're going to review starting out with a decimal and then making the conversion to a fraction and a percent. We'll be looking in this section here of your brochure, converting decimals to fractions and percents. So let's use the example 45 hundredths, 0.45. I've got a decimal form, and I want to turn it into a fraction and a percent. Well, let's start with the percent part, because that's a little bit faster. When we turn a decimal into a percent, all we need to do is move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So I can rewrite it right over here. In yellow, I'll move the decimal point over twice, and that turns 45 hundredths into 45%. So if you can remember the steps, it's usually pretty quick to turn a decimal into a percent. But you got to be able to remember the steps. Now what if we need to turn this decimal into a fraction? That means we need a numerator and we need a denominator. We need a number on top and a number on bottom. So 45 hundredths, well, I'm kind of saying this out loud, but it's 45 in the hundredths place. I have 45 out of 100. So I can take away the decimal point and I can put 45 over 100. And now I've written this as a fraction. Now, this fraction, the one thing we need to remember about this is so far it looks good, but we cannot forget to simplify the fraction that we get. So you always need to consider it. Can it be simplified? 45 over 100. I believe this can be simplified. 45 ends in a 5, 100 ends in a 0, and 5 goes into any value that ends in a 5 or a 0. So I know we can simplify by 5 if I divide both sides by 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times, and 5 goes into 100 20 times. So I've simplified to 9/20ths, and I'm going to consider again, can 9/20ths be simplified? If I think about the factors of 9, I get 1, 3, and 9. We can't simplify using a 1. And the number 3 and the number 9 don't go into 20. So it looks like 9/20ths is the simplified fraction of 45 hundredths. So we just put 45 over 100 and then we simplify. Don't forget to simplify your fraction. Now a little bonus here. If you end up with a number with in the ones place, if you have something like 2 and 75 hundredths, and you want to turn this into a percent, we can do that pretty quick still by moving the decimal point. We would just move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, and that will give us a 275% right there. Now if we need to turn this to a fraction, really the best method when you have 2 and 75 hundredths, if you have a number in the ones place, is to leave that number alone as it is, and then put the decimal values, the ones in the tens, hundreds, or thousands, put those over 100. So if I just take 75 and put this over 100, and now I've turned this decimal into a fraction, and all I need to do is simplify 75 hundredths. 2 can stay as this big whole number, this ones value right over here. 75 and 100 simplifies to 3/4. Don't forget to simplify. And that's really the best way to do this if you end up with a number in the ones place. I want you guys to try these on your own real quick. I want you to try 85 hundredths and 1 and 65 hundredths. Can you turn both of these into a fraction and a percent? Go ahead. So when you turned 85 hundredths into a percent, hopefully you moved the decimal point 2 places to the right and got 85%. And then when you turned it into a fraction right here, you can put 85 over 100, and then don't forget to simplify. We're going to keep saying that over and over again. If you simplify by 5, because 5 goes into both, you get 17/20ths, and I think that you can't simplify it any further than that. 17 is a prime number, and only 1 and 17 go into that, so 17/20ths is simplified. When you did 1 and 65 hundredths, again with the percent, we move it 2 places over, and that's a 165%. And then when you turn it into a fraction, we talked about this, take the 1, this number in the ones place, and just leaving it by itself right here, and then putting 65 over 100 is your fraction, and then simplifying 65 over 100. 5 goes into both of those, goes into 65 13 times, and goes into 120 times, and that's going to be the simplified mixed number of 106 or 1 and 65 hundredths.